So, without further ado, I'm really thrilled to introduce our speaker this evening, Adrienne Buller, the Director of Research at Commonwealth, a progressive think tank focused on building a democratic economy, and of course, the author of The Value of a Whale. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Well, to get started, tell us about where this book came from. Tell us about the inspiration behind it.
Yeah, good question. I guess there's probably two answers to that. The first is that I came out of my sort of master's degree very kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, wanting to work in the kind of climate space, and ended up working for sort of a watchdog kind of not-for-profit that looked at how the corporate sector and how the financial sector was engaging with climate policy. So I spent a lot of my time running around this neighborhood, speaking to asset managers and their sustainability teams and sort of finding out what everyone was working on, and sort of evaluating how their portfolios and their kind of sustainability plans might align with different kind of climate scenarios. And sort of came away from that feeling a bit like there was a lot of energy being channeled towards the desire to make finance more sustainable and to sort of link the idea that you can sort of do well by doing good, and yet it felt like the actual sort of concrete actions that were being pursued were often not necessarily delivering on the outcomes they said they might. We can, I guess, unpack that. And so this book kind of reflects 6 or 7 years of working in this kind of space, and basically just asking myself the question, what is mainstream climate policy? Where is it working? Where is it not working? And why? And then the second reason, which is sort of in, I guess, the title of the book itself, is that in 2019, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, had sort of a team of researchers publish a study where they looked at trying to provide an economic justification for whale conservation based on their role in sort of the carbon cycle and sequestering carbon, the contributions they made through sort of ecotourism, etc., and decided that each whale was worth $2 million US, give or take. Not if you're a dolphin or a porpoise, sorry, not important enough. And I thought, that kind of encapsulated everything that I was troubled by in terms of mainstream sort of climate and ecological policymaking, which is kind of appraising everything through the lens of the economy first and foremost.
And you certainly don't hold back. I mean, it's a pretty scathing review of just really the capitalist system in general. And it's really fantastic the way that you unpack all these power structures and why fundamentally we're just not going to get the sustainable results that we need with this particular kind of system. And one of the really key parts of the book is the really tearing apart of the green economy and green capitalism and what it is. Give us a little bit of background on what the green economy is, what green capitalism is.
Sure, it's always funny and like slightly unsettling to me when people say it's scathing, because I'm really not very combative as a person.
It really doesn't come across that way.
But that tends to be consistent feedback that I receive, so apparently I'm a bit of a jerk at this.
Honest, truth to power is how I would describe it.
So I think, what I term, green capitalism in the book, sort of a blanket term. I kind of need something to efficiently describe what I generally kind of see as, a market-based approach to climate and ecological policymaking. So really leaning on solutions that kind of conform to the existing economic systems and models and institutions that we currently have, and trying to wedge, resolving the climate crisis into those. And I guess, the birth of this would have been kind of early ecological economics, which really began sort of 70s, 80s, and has sort of elaborated since with some key figures like William Nordhaus, who's probably the kind of most famous figure in that field, who was one of the first people to really engage with how economics and climate change might interact, and kind of came up with models that suggest, there's an optimal degree of, global warming, and trying to evaluate kind of the impact on the economy. And even kind of in those fundamental bases, you kind of quickly run into issues. So, Nordhaus's earliest studies, which are, they were informing the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, as recently as, 2014. He tries to evaluate what the impact of sort of gradual global warming will be on global GDP. Already kind of a crude appraisal, but fair enough, big question. and then promptly kind of excludes about 90% of economic activity from that, because things like insurance and even mining initially, manufacturing, they take place inside. And so because we can carefully air condition those environments, they're sort of irrelevant to the calculus of how the climate crisis might affect their contribution to GDP. And so I think the goal, I guess, of the book is to kind of unpack some of those assumptions that have become really embedded and which I think we take for granted. And yeah.